Chosen one. Why do you keep waking up at 3:17 a.m. with your heart pounding? Why does Thursday, the 14th of August, feel like it's been written on your soul in invisible ink? And why, tell me, why does everyone around you seem to be sleepwalking through life while you feel like you're drowning in spiritual electricity? Stop. Right where you are. Stop. What I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've believed about your timing, your purpose, and why you felt like a stranger in your own life for so long. It's Thursday, the 14th of August. Somewhere in heaven's war room, that date is circled in gold ink, underlined 3 times, and marked "You Argent." And if you're hearing my voice right now, if these words are cutting through the noise of your day like a divine sword, it's no accident. This message has been traveling through time, through spiritual dimensions, through the very heartbeat of eternity to find you. Here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. You haven't been forgotten. You haven't been passed over. You haven't missed your moment. You've been hidden, strategically positioned, divinely camouflaged for such a time as this. And the 14th of August, it's your unveiling day. I'm talking to the grandmother in Detroit who's been praying the same prayer for 47 years. I'm speaking to the grandfather in Brooklyn whose dreams feel too big for his 7-8-year-old bones. I'm calling out to every chosen one who's ever whispered, "God, did you forget my address?" You feel it, don't you? That stirring in your chest that started 3 days ago, that unexplainable knowing that something massive is shifting. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's anticipation. Your spirit recognizing its appointment with destiny. Before we go deeper into this sacred mystery, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating. You're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit lead your heart. But listen carefully. By the end of these next 60 minutes, you will understand why every battle you've fought, every tear you've shed, every night you felt forgotten, has been pointing like a divine arrow to this exact day. The signs are everywhere. 3 specific confirmations that will make your spirit leap by the 14th of August. But I won't reveal them yet. If your spirit is stirring right now, if something deep inside you is whispering, "This is for me, stay with me," this could be the most important hour of your year. And if your heart feels this message was written just for you, I want you to whisper it right where you are. Don't think, don't analyze, just say, "I'm ready." Because chosen one, ready or not, the 14th of August is coming, and heaven is watching. How many nights have you stared at your ceiling wondering if your best years are buried behind you? How many mornings have you woken up feeling like the world has moved on without you? And how many times, be honest with me, have you whispered to God, "Did I miss my moment?" Listen to me, chosen one. What if I told you that everything you think you know about divine timing is a lie? What if every rejection, every closed door, every season of feeling invisible wasn't God forgetting you, but God hiding you? The truth that's about to shatter your understanding is this. You weren't meant to peak at 30. You weren't designed to fade at 50. You weren't created to disappear at 70. You were strategically preserved for impact at the exact moment when the world needs what only you can carry. Let me paint you a picture that will stop your heart. In 1994, John Glenn was 77 years old. 77. The world had written him off as a relic from America's space program. But NASA had a problem. They needed someone with his exact experience, his precise knowledge, his tested courage. So at an age when most men are playing checkers in retirement homes, John Glenn strapped himself to a rocket and flew back into the heavens. Not as a young hero, but as a seasoned warrior whose time had finally come. That's you, beloved. That's your story being written in real time. For decades, you've been like a seed buried so deep in dark soil that you forgot you were meant to grow. The pressure wasn't punishment, it was preparation. The silence wasn't abandonment, it was incubation. Every year you've survived, every storm you've weathered, every disappointment that should have destroyed you has been adding layers of spiritual strength to your core. Think about Harriet Tubman. She didn't become the legendary conductor of the Underground Railroad until she was almost 30. But those first 30 years of slavery, of suffering, of learning every back road through the Maryland wilderness, that wasn't wasted time. That was graduate school for freedom. When her moment came, she was ready. Not just ready, she was equipped with knowledge that no classroom could teach. You've been in your own Underground Railroad, haven't you? Moving through seasons that felt endless, carrying burdens that seemed too heavy, following a path that nobody else could see. But every step was mapping your route to destiny. Esther 4:14 asks the question that will haunt you if you don't answer it. Who knows whether you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? Such a time as this, not such a time as when you were younger, stronger, or had fewer scars. Such a time as right now, with your grey hair that carries wisdom, with your weathered hands that know how to hold both pain and hope, with your heart that's been broken enough times to understand real compassion. There's a reason some people have misunderstood you all these years. There's a reason certain doors slammed shut when you needed them most. There's a reason you felt like a square peg trying to fit into round holes your entire life. It's because you were never meant for their timeline. You were preserved for God's timeline. And the 14th of August, that's when your preservation period ends and your revelation period begins. The enemy has been working overtime to convince you that your season is over. He's whispered lies about your age, your energy, your relevance. He's tried to make you believe that influence belongs to the young, that innovation requires smooth skin, that God only uses people in their prime. But that's not biblical, that's not historical, and that's definitely not true. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver a nation. Abraham was 75 when God promised him descendants like the stars. Sarah was 90 when she gave birth to nations. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she proclaimed the Messiah to Jerusalem. These weren't accidents of history, they were patterns of heaven. God specializes in using the underestimated, the overlooked, the ones the world has written off. Because when he moves through someone society doesn't expect, there's no question about who gets the glory. You've felt it lately, haven't you? That restlessness that won't let you settle, that stirring that disrupts your sleep, that knowing that something massive is shifting in the spiritual realm. Your soul is picking up frequencies from the 14th of August, like a radio tuning into a distant station that's getting clearer by the hour. This isn't about age, beloved. This is about appointment. This isn't about your limitations. This is about God's limitless power working through willing vessels who've been refined by fire and proven by time. You've graduated from survival school. You've earned your doctorate in trusting God when nothing makes sense. And now, finally, it's time for you to step into the assignment that required exactly this level of preparation. The seed that's been dormant in the soil of your spirit is feeling sunlight for the first time in decades. Can you sense it? The crack in your heart where new life is pushing through, the movement beneath the surface of your ordinary days. But here's what will determine whether the 14th of August becomes your breakthrough or just another date on the calendar. Chosen one, I need to ask you something that might cut deep into places you thought were sealed forever. When was the last time you felt truly seen? Not glanced at, not acknowledged in passing, but truly seen for who you are beneath the wrinkles, beneath the slower walk, beneath the trembling hands that once built empires. You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you? That moment when your own grandchild looks right through you like your furniture. When the doctor speaks to your adult child instead of you, as if age stole your ability to understand your own body. When the cashier at the grocery store speaks louder and slower, assuming your mind dimmed with your hearing. But that's just the surface wound, isn't it? The real weight you carry runs deeper than society's blindness. It's the 3 a.m. conversations with empty beds where your beloved once lay. It's the medical bills that devour your fixed income like hungry wolves. It's watching your life savings, 40 years of careful planning, evaporate in a market crash that the experts said would never happen. Let me tell you about Margaret from Queens. 73 years old, buried her husband of 51 years last September. The man who called her beautiful every morning, who held her hand through 3 cancer battles, who promised they'd grow old together watching sunsets from their porch. Now she sits in that same chair, but the sunsets look grey. The house echoes with memories that feel more like ghosts. Margaret called me last week, sobbing. "Pastor," she whispered, "I feel invisible. My children visit out of duty, not love. They discuss my future like I'm not in the room. I raised them, sacrificed my dreams for theirs, and now I'm just forgotten." Does that sound familiar? Does that pierce the armor you've built around your heart? But Margaret's story isn't unique. There's Robert in the Bronx, 81 years old, who worked construction for 45 years. His hands built schools, hospitals, homes where families created memories. Now those same hands shake so violently he can't sign his own name. The pension he counted on was restructured by corporate lawyers who never swung a hammer in their lives. He eats 1 meal a day so his medications don't bankrupt him. And Sarah, in Staten Island, 68, who discovered her late husband's secret gambling debts 3 months after his funeral, 53 years of marriage, and she never knew. Now she's facing foreclosure on the home where she raised 5 children, hosted countless Thanksgivings, prayed countless prayers. You see, beloved, the world measures worth by productivity, by youth, by speed, but you've been pushed to the margins, treated like expired goods when you're actually vintage wine, richer, deeper, more valuable with time. The enemy whispers lies. Your best days are behind you. You're a burden. You should just fade quietly away. But that serpent in the garden has been lying since Eden, and he's lying to you now. David knew something about being overlooked. When the prophet Samuel came looking for the next king of Israel, Jesse paraded 7 sons before him. 7. But David, he was in the fields with the sheep, forgotten, invisible, deemed too young, too small, too irrelevant. 1 Samuel 16:11. "Are these all the sons you have?" Samuel asked. Only then did Jesse remember his youngest. But God never forgot David. Not for a moment. Moses understood rejection too. 40 years in Pharaoh's palace, then 40 years in the wilderness, forgotten by history, herding sheep in the desert. At 80 years old, 80, when most would be planning their funeral, God appeared in a burning bush and said, "Now you're ready. You think your age disqualifies you." Moses delivered a nation at 80. Sarah gave birth to promise at 90. Caleb conquered mountains at 85, declaring, "Give me this mountain." Joshua 14:12. Your wrinkles aren't signs of decline, they're evidence of endurance. Your slower steps aren't weakness, they're wisdom earned through walking roads others fear to travel. Your trembling voice carries more authority than the shouts of 1,000 young voices, because it's been tested in the furnace of real life. But here's what breaks my heart. You've internalized their blindness. You've started believing you're invisible to God too. You pray smaller prayers, dream smaller dreams, expect smaller miracles. You whisper instead of declare, apologize for taking up space when you should be commanding the room. Stop, right now, stop. Every financial blow you've survived, every funeral you've endured, every diagnosis that tried to destroy you, you're still here. That's not luck, that's not medicine. That's divine preservation for divine purpose. Job lost everything at an age when most men would curse God and die. But Job 42:12 declares, "The Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former part." The latter part, the older part. The part when his hair was grey and his body was worn. In God's economy, delay is never denial. And the same God who kept you breathing through every storm is about to shift the wind in your favor. The same hands that carried you through the valley of the shadow of death are about to lift you to heights you never imagined possible. But the question that will determine your destiny is this: will you keep believing the world's lies about your worth, or will you finally remember what heaven has always known about your value? Because, chosen one, the 14th of August isn't just another Thursday. It's the day God says enough to the silence, enough to the invisibility, enough to the world's dismissal of his seasoned warriors. But will you be ready to hear him call your name? Listen to me, chosen one. There are ordinary Thursdays when you grab your coffee, check the weather, and shuffle through another day wondering if this is all there is. And then there are appointed Thursdays. Thursdays that have been marked in heaven's calendar since before the foundations of the earth were laid. The 14th of August is one of them. But here's what's going to shake you to your core. You think you've been waiting on God, but God has been waiting on you. Waiting for you to be ready. Waiting for you to be positioned. Waiting for you to be desperate enough to receive what he's been preparing to release. Why the 14th of August? Why not tomorrow? Why not last year when you were younger, stronger, when your knees didn't ache and your heart wasn't scarred by so many disappointments? Because divine timing doesn't follow human logic. It follows divine necessity. Look at Moses, 80 years old when God called him from a burning bush. 80. When the world would have put him in a retirement home, God put a staff in his hand and said, "Now you're ready to deliver a nation." Why did it take 80 years? Because some assignments require 8 decades of preparation. Some deliverances demand a lifetime of wilderness training. You've been in your wilderness, haven't you? 40 years, 50 years, maybe more. Wondering why breakthrough keeps slipping through your fingers like water. Wondering why other people seem to get their miracles while you're still waiting for yours. But what if I told you the wilderness wasn't your punishment? What if it was your classroom? What if every closed door, every delayed answer, every night you cried yourself to sleep was God building something inside you that couldn't be built any other way? Deuteronomy 8:2 says, "Remember how the Lord your God led you all the way in the wilderness these 40 years, to humble and test you in order to know what was in your heart." The wilderness reveals what civilization conceals. It strips away everything false until only the real you remains. And you, dear one, you are real. Tested. Proven. Ready. But here's the first sign that the 14th of August is your appointed day. Listen carefully, because this is happening right now, even as I speak these words. The first sign: an unexpected reconnection. In the next 72 hours, someone from your past is going to reach out. Maybe it's a phone call from a relative you haven't spoken to in years. Maybe it's a letter that shows up out of nowhere. Maybe it's running into someone at the grocery store who knew you when life was different, when dreams were bigger, when hope felt easier. Don't dismiss it as coincidence. There are no coincidences in the kingdom of God. There are only divine appointments disguised as ordinary moments. This reconnection isn't random. It's heaven's way of showing you that what felt lost can be found, what felt dead can be resurrected, what felt impossible can become inevitable. Some of you are thinking, but what if nothing happens? What if I'm disappointed again? Stop right there. Stop living from the wound of past disappointments. Stop protecting yourself from hope, because hope once hurt you. That's not faith. That's fear wearing a religious mask. Jesus said in Matthew 17:20, "Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move." A mustard seed isn't impressive. It's tiny, almost invisible. But it contains life. It contains potential. It contains the power to grow into something that can provide shelter for birds. Your faith doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be present. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. The 14th of August isn't just about you receiving something. It's about you becoming someone. The person you were 3 months ago couldn't handle what God is about to release. The version of you that panicked over problems, that begged for approval, that apologized for taking up space, That version had to die so the real you could emerge. And emerge you will. Because the second confirmation is already stirring in your spirit. You've felt it, haven't you? That unusual peace that makes no sense given your circumstances. That supernatural calm in the middle of a storm that should be drowning you. That's not denial. That's not delusion. That's divine preparation. When Jesus was in the boat with his disciples and the storm raged around them, where was he? Sleeping. Not because he didn't care about the storm, but because he knew who had authority over it. Mark 4:39 records what happened next. He got up, rebuked the wind, and said to the waves, "Quiet, be still." Then the wind died down, and it was completely calm. The peace you've been feeling, that's Jesus standing in your storm, speaking to your chaos, commanding your confusion to be still. You're not losing your mind. You're finding your identity as someone who carries the peace of God that surpasses all understanding. But some of you are still stuck in yesterday's definition of yourself, still seeing yourself through the eyes of people who knew you when you were broken, still limiting yourself to the size of other people's imagination. That ends on the 14th of August. Mark it on your calendar, not with ink but with intention. Guard that morning like you're guarding treasure, because treasure is exactly what it is. Walk into that Thursday with your spirit on high alert. Don't let the ordinary fool you. Don't let routine deceive you. Some of the most extraordinary moments in history have looked completely ordinary on the surface. Mary was just doing laundry when the angel appeared. David was just watching sheep when Samuel arrived with oil. Moses was just tending his father-in-law's flock when the bush caught fire. Your burning bush moment is coming. And when it does, will you be ready to remove your shoes and stand on holy ground? Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly why everything you've endured has been leading to this one pivotal moment in your spiritual journey. You want to know why the 14th of August matters? Let me tell you about the pattern, the divine blueprint that heaven has been using for thousands of years when it's time to unveil its chosen ones. Every single person who ever stepped into their destiny did it when the world said they were done, when logic screamed impossible, when their own mirror reflected back someone too old, too broken, too late. Look at Joseph, 17 years old with dreams of greatness, but where did God take him first? To a pit, betrayed by his own brothers, sold like cattle, falsely accused by Potiphar's wife, forgotten in prison for years. Years. Can you imagine? Sitting in that dungeon, watching your 20s slip away, your 30s disappear, wondering if God made a mistake with those dreams. But here's what Joseph didn't know. Every single day in that prison was divine preparation for managing the wealth of an entire empire. Genesis 41-46 tells us Joseph was 30 years old when he finally stood before Pharaoh. 13 years of waiting, of wondering, of what felt like wasted time. But in one conversation, he went from prisoner to prime minister, from forgotten to unforgettable, from invisible to indispensable. Now let me shock you with something closer to home. Something that will make your spirit leap, because it proves God specializes in what the world calls too late. Grandma Moses didn't pick up her first paintbrush until she was 78 years old. 78. Most people are planning their funeral at 78, but Anna Mary Robertson Moses was planning her masterpiece. Do you know what happened? Her paintings now hang in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. She became more famous in her 80s than most people ever dream of being. Colonel Sanders was 62 when he started Kentucky Fried Chicken. 62, living on Social Security, sleeping in his car, getting rejected 1,009 times before someone finally said yes to his recipe. Today that recipe feeds millions around the world. His face is on buildings from Times Square to Tokyo. But wait, there's more. Denzel Washington was getting his hair cut in a beauty salon in Mount Vernon when an elderly prophetess walked up to him. This woman had never seen him act, never heard of him, but she looked him dead in the eye and said, "Young man, you're going to speak to millions, you're going to preach." Denzel laughed it off. He was pursuing secular acting, not ministry. But decades later, he stood before thousands at his church and said, "That woman saw something I didn't see. God had already written my story. Do you see the pattern? Do you feel what I'm showing you? God doesn't operate on earthly timelines. He operates on eternal appointments." And every chosen one, every single one, thought they had missed their moment until the moment arrived. Now let's go deeper. Let's talk about Caleb. Joshua 14:10-11. Caleb is 85 years old. 85. His friends are dying. His contemporaries are settling into retirement. But listen to what comes out of his mouth. "I am still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then. Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. Give me this mountain." At 85, while everyone else was talking about their aches and pains, Caleb was claiming territory. While others were reminiscing about their glory days, Caleb was saying his glory days were right now, and God honored it. Caleb conquered that mountain. At 85, he was driving out giants that younger men feared to face. But perhaps the most powerful example is Anna the prophetess. Luke 2:36-38. She was 84 years old, a widow who had spent decades in the temple praying, fasting, waiting. 84 years of life. Most of it in waiting. People probably whispered, "Poor old Anna, still hanging around the temple after all these years." But when baby Jesus was brought to the temple, who recognized him first? Anna. Not the young priests, not the religious scholars. Anna. The 84-year-old widow became the first evangelist of the Messiah. Her decades of faithful waiting positioned her for the most important announcement in human history. Here's what's making my spirit tremble as I speak to you right now. Every single one of these chosen ones had one thing in common. They all reached a moment, a specific moment when they had to choose between what the world said about their age and what God said about their assignment. Joseph could have rotted in bitterness. Grandma Moses could have knitted until she died. Colonel Sanders could have accepted defeat. Caleb could have shuffled off to assisted living. Anna could have given up her vigil. But they didn't. They didn't. And there is one thing, one instruction that every chosen one has obeyed when their moment came. One divine directive that separated those who stepped into destiny from those who stepped into regret. I'll give it to you before we finish. But first you need to understand something that's going to shake you to your core. Right now, as I'm speaking these words, there are 8 4-year-old grandmothers who think their story is over. There are 7 5-year-old grandfathers who believe their dreams expired with their youth. There are chosen ones across America who have let the calendar convince them that God's calendar has moved on without them. But what if the 14th of August is your Caleb moment? What if this Thursday is your Anna moment? What if everything you've been through, every year you've survived, every battle you've won, has been preparing you for something so magnificent that it required decades of divine preparation? Because here's what I know about God's timing. It's never late, and it's never early. It's always precisely perfect. And if you're still breathing, if your heart is still beating, if you can still hear my voice cutting through the noise of this world, then your moment hasn't passed. Your moment is approaching like thunder in the distance, and the 14th of August is when lightning strikes. Listen to me, dear one. I need you to lean in close, because what I'm about to tell you will turn everything you thought you knew about your suffering upside down. What if the very pain you thought disqualified you was heaven's proof you could carry this blessing? I know that sounds impossible right now. You're sitting there thinking about that diagnosis that came out of nowhere, that marriage that crumbled after 43 years, that child who stopped calling, that business that failed right when you thought you'd finally made it, that depression that visits you at 3 a.m. like an unwelcome guest who never leaves. But what if I told you that every single tear you've cried, every sleepless night you've endured, every moment you wanted to give up but somehow found the strength to take one more breath, what if all of that wasn't punishment? What if it was preparation? You see, diamonds aren't formed in comfort, beloved. They're created under crushing pressure, 100 miles beneath the Earth's surface, in temperatures over 2,000 degrees. For billions of years, carbon endures unimaginable pressure until it transforms into something so precious that kings wear it on their crowns. That's you. You've been under pressure, divine pressure, and what the world saw as your breaking point, heaven saw as your making point. Think about the Colorado River. For 6 million years, it carved through solid rock, one drop at a time, creating the Grand Canyon. The most magnificent natural wonder in America wasn't formed in a day. It was formed through relentless persistence, through what looked like insignificant drops of water that refused to give up. That's your story, chosen one. Every day you got up when you didn't want to. Every morning you chose faith over fear. Every moment you whispered, "I trust you." Lord, through gritted teeth while your world was falling apart, you were carving your canyon. You were creating something magnificent that would stand the test of time. But here's what's going to shock you to your core. Remember those 3 signs I promised you, the confirmations that would make your spirit leap by the 14th of August? It's time to reveal them. Sign number 2. You've been having dreams again, haven't you? Dreams you haven't had in years. Dreams so vivid you wake up feeling like you've been somewhere else entirely. That's not your subconscious playing tricks on you. That's heaven downloading your assignment. Joel 2:28 declares, "Your old men will dream dreams, not might dream, will dream." God is speaking to you through the night watches because the day is about to break. Sign number 3. People have been reaching out to you unexpectedly. Old friends calling after years of silence. Family members mentioning your name in conversations they've never had before. Strangers approaching you with stories that mirror your own. This isn't coincidence, beloved. This is divine orchestration. God is positioning witnesses for what He's about to do in your life. And here's the revelation that will change everything. You didn't miss your moment. You've been walking toward it for 70, 80, maybe 90 years. Every rejection that stung, every door that slammed in your face, every time someone told you that you were too old, too late, too damaged, they were wrong, dead wrong. Because God's timeline doesn't follow human logic. His ways are not our ways, and His thoughts are not our thoughts. Look at Abraham, called at 75 to become the father of nations. Sarah, laughing at 90 because God promised her a baby. Moses, stuttering his way through the wilderness at 80 to deliver an entire people. These weren't accidents, chosen one. These were patterns. God specializes in using the overlooked, the underestimated, the ones the world has written off. But here's what breaks my heart. You've been believing the enemy's lies about your expiration date. You've been listening to voices that told you your season was over when God was just getting started. The devil has been whispering in your ear for decades. You're too old. You're too tired. You've made too many mistakes. God's moved on without you. Those are lies from the pit of hell. The truth is that every year you've lived has been adding weight to your spiritual authority. Every trial you've survived has been building your testimony. Every mountain you've climbed has been strengthening your faith muscles for the Everest that's ahead of you. You want to know why the attacks have been so intense lately? Why it feels like everything is falling apart just when you thought things were getting better? Because the enemy knows what the 14th of August represents. He knows that date is marked in heaven's calendar as your breakthrough moment, and he's been working overtime to make you quit 3 feet from gold. But you're still here. You're still listening. You're still believing. And that, beloved one, is proof that what's in you is greater than what's against you. 1 John 4:4 reminds us, "Greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world." The same power that raised Christ from the dead is living in your mortal body right now, at your age, with your history, with your scars. The resurrection power of Almighty God is coursing through your veins this very moment. So here's my question for you, and I need you to answer this honestly. Are you ready to stop believing the lies about your limitations and start walking in the truth about your calling? Because the 14th of August isn't just another day on the calendar. It's the day heaven stops whispering and starts shouting your name. Listen to me, chosen one. I need to tell you something that's going to shake you to your core. The 14th of August will not come knocking on your door while you're sitting in your favorite recliner, waiting for miracles to happen. That's not how God operates with his generals. That's not how heaven moves through warriors who've been refined by fire. You see, there's a deadly lie that's been whispered into the ears of God's people for generations. The lie that says, just wait, just pray, just be patient. But I'm here to tell you that patience without preparation is presumption. Faith without action is fantasy. And if you think you can coast into your divine appointment on the 14th of August without getting your heart, your mind, and your spirit battle ready, you're about to miss the greatest opportunity of your lifetime. Here's what's breaking my heart right now. I see seniors faithful, praying, tithing seniors who've been sitting in the same pew for 40 years, singing the same songs, praying the same prayers, and wondering why nothing ever changes. They've confused being religious with being ready. They've mistaken routine for relationship. And they're about to watch the 14th of August come and go like every other day because they never learned the difference between waiting on God and waiting for God. Moses didn't just stand at the Red Sea and hope it would part. Exodus 14:16 tells us exactly what God said. Raise your staff and stretch out your hand over the sea to divide the water. God required action. Joshua didn't just pray about Jericho's walls, he marched. For 6 days, he marched in obedience before God brought the breakthrough on the 7th day. But here's the part that will cut deep. How many of you have been praying for breakthrough for decades, but when God whispers a simple instruction, you hesitate? When he tells you to make that phone call, you say, tomorrow. When he nudges you to forgive, you say they don't deserve it. When he calls you to step out in faith, you say, I'm too old. Too old? Abraham was 99 when God renewed his covenant. Sarah was 90 when she conceived Isaac. Moses was 80 when he faced Pharaoh. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification. But it's also your urgency. You don't have another 40 years to hesitate. You don't have another decade to procrastinate. The 14th of August is your appointed time, and appointed times don't wait for convenient moments. There's a small, specific act of obedience that God will whisper to you. It won't be complicated. It won't require a seminary degree. But it will require courage. It will demand that you trust his voice more than your logic. It will ask you to move when moving doesn't make sense. And chosen one, that simple act, that moment of radical obedience will be your key to breakthrough, your key to promotion, your key to the very thing you've been praying for since you had gray hair on your head. But here's what terrifies me. Here's what keeps me awake at night praying for God's people. On the 13th of August, millions of believers will go to bed unprepared. They'll wake up on the 14th treating it like any other Thursday. They'll check their phones, drink their coffee, watch the news, and completely miss the divine appointment that's been marked in heaven's calendar with their name on it. I'm begging you, don't let that be you. Don't let this be another what-if story you tell yourself in 5 years. Don't be the one who says, I heard about the 14th of August, but I was too busy to pay attention. You need to set aside time that morning, not 5 minutes between breakfast and your medication. Real time, sacred time, time where you disconnect from every distraction and connect with the voice that's been calling your name since before you were born. Protect your peace like it's precious cargo. Turn off the television. Silence the phone. Tell the family you're not available. This isn't about being antisocial, this is about being spiritually strategic. And your words, beloved, your words on that morning will carry supernatural weight. Proverbs 18:21 reminds us that death and life are in the power of the tongue. Speak life over your situation. Speak breakthrough over your circumstances. Speak divine favor over your future. Don't waste that morning complaining about your arthritis or gossiping about your neighbors. Use your tongue like the weapon of warfare it was designed to be. If you're committing to act on whatever God shows you, if you're ready to move when He says move, speak when He says speak, and step out when He says step out, write it down today, date it, seal it with your signature. Make it a covenant between you and heaven that you will not let fear, doubt, or delay rob you of what's been prepared for you since the foundation of the world. But this activation isn't just about you. There's something else stirring, something deeper that will change everything you thought you knew about why you're still here. Now listen to me very carefully, chosen one, because what I'm about to reveal will explain why your phone rang at exactly 11:11 yesterday. Why that song from 1987 suddenly came on the radio just when you needed to hear it. Why your late husband's favorite bird showed up at your kitchen window 3 mornings in a row. The 14th of August didn't just come and go like some ordinary Thursday, did it? It triggered something. A divine chain reaction that's been rippling through the spiritual atmosphere ever since. And if you're paying attention, if you're truly awake, you're already seeing the signs. But here's what's going to shock you. The enemy saw them too. Right now, this very moment, there's a war raging in the heavenlies over your breakthrough. Ephesians 6:12 warns us. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world. Why do you think the attacks got more intense right after the 14th of August? Why do you think the doubt got louder? Why do you think that old depression tried to creep back in? Because hell recognizes activation when it sees it. Watch, listen, prepare. The first signal is what I call the hidden letter. Somewhere in the next 72 hours, information meant only for you will arrive when you least expect it. It might come through a phone call from someone you haven't heard from in 20 years. It might be a document in your mailbox that changes everything. It could be 3 words spoken by a stranger that unlock a door you've been pushing against for decades. Isaiah 45:3 promises, I will give you hidden treasures of darkness and secret riches of hidden places. God is about to hand you intelligence, spiritual intelligence, that will make the last 40 years of confusion finally make sense. But you have to be watching. You have to be listening. Watch, listen, prepare. The second signal is the sudden knock. Within the next 2 weeks, an opportunity will present itself without warning. No applications, no interviews, no begging. It will simply appear at your door like the angel who visited Mary. You'll know it's divine because it won't make logical sense. Your age will say no. Your bank account will say impossible. Your family will say you're crazy. But your spirit will say yes. Some of you just got chills, didn't you? That's because your breakthrough is already in motion. Luke 1:37 declares, For with God nothing shall be impossible. That door you stopped knocking on, that dream you buried under bills and responsibilities, God didn't forget. He was waiting for the 14th of August to release it. Watch, listen, prepare. But here's the third signal, and this one will test everything you think you know about warfare. The quiet storm. As your alignment increases, so will your opposition. Not from circumstances, from voices. Old voices of doubt, familiar spirits of fear. The same demonic whispers that tried to stop Moses at the Red Sea, that tried to silence Esther in the palace, that tried to convince David he was just a shepherd boy. You're too old for this. People like you don't get opportunities like this. Who do you think you are? Listen to me, beloved. When those voices get louder, when that storm gets fiercer, when it feels like hell itself is coming after your peace, that's how you'll know you're on the right road. 2 Timothy 3:12 warns us, All who will live godly in Christ Jesus shall suffer persecution. Your storm isn't punishment, it's confirmation. Some of you felt it this week, didn't you? That old familiar depression knocking at your door. That voice telling you nothing's really changing. That whisper saying you imagined the whole thing. That's not your voice. That's the voice of the defeated enemy trying one last desperate attempt to steal what the 14th of August activated. But it's too late. The activation is complete. The signals are in motion. The hidden letter is already written. The sudden knock is already approaching your door. And the quiet storm? It's proof that heaven moved on your behalf. Watch, listen, prepare. Because what's coming next will require everything you've learned about warfare, everything you've discovered about faith, and everything you've forgotten about who you really are under all those years of doubt. The question burning in heaven right now is this: will you recognize the signals when they arrive, or will you let fear convince you they're just coincidence? You survived the first mountain, didn't you? That brutal climb through your 40s, 50s, 60s, burying parents, fighting for your marriage, raising children who broke your heart more times than they healed it. You made it to the top of that mountain, bloodied and exhausted, thinking the journey was over. But then you looked up, and there it was. Another peak, higher, more magnificent, more terrifying. Listen to me, chosen one. The first mountain was survival. The second mountain is significance. Moses knew this. At 120 years old, 120, when most men would be dreaming of easy chairs and quiet afternoons, God took him to the top of Mount Nebo. Deuteronomy 34:1 tells us Moses went up to the top of Pisgah, which is across from Jericho. And from that mountain, the Lord showed him something that would break your heart and heal it at the same time. The promised land. Everything Moses had fought for, everything he had sacrificed, everything he had led 2 million complaining Israelites toward for 40 years in the wilderness. There it was, spread out before him like a divine masterpiece painted in gold and green. But here's what will shock you: Moses never got to enter it, never got to walk those streets, never got to taste those grapes or drink from those wells. He saw it, he believed it, but he died on that mountain, still looking toward the promise. Why am I telling you this story? Because Moses wasn't being punished, he was being positioned. You see, Moses had completed his first mountain, the mountain of deliverance. He had freed the slaves. He had parted the Red Sea. He had received the 10 Commandments. That mountain was done. But the second mountain, the mountain of legacy, that required him to see beyond his own life, beyond his own experience, beyond his own timeline. Moses died looking at a future he would never personally touch, but his vision would guide a nation for generations. That's where you are right now, beloved. Standing between two mountains. Behind you lies the mountain of survival, the decades of just making it through, the years of paying bills, changing diapers, working jobs that crushed your soul but fed your family. The nights you fell into bed so exhausted you forgot to dream. The seasons when hope felt like a luxury you couldn't afford. You climbed that mountain step by bloody step. And against all odds, against divorce papers and cancer diagnoses and children who walked away and dreams that died in your hands, you made it to the top. But now what? Now what do you do with the view? Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. Are you going to spend your remaining years telling stories about the mountain you've already climbed? Are you going to become one of those people who lives entirely in the past, whose best days are always behind them? Or are you going to do what Caleb did? Joshua 14:10-12 records one of the most shocking declarations in all of Scripture. Caleb, at 85 years old, 85, stands before Joshua and says something that should make every senior citizen in America fall to their knees in repentance for believing they're too old to matter. I am still as strong today as I was the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then. Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. Give me this hill country. Not give me a rocking chair, not give me a pension plan, not give me a quiet retirement. Give me this hill country. Give me the mountains. Give me the giants. Give me the impossible. At 85, Caleb was looking at his second mountain. The first mountain had been wandering in the wilderness for 40 years, watching an entire generation die off because they were too afraid to take the promised land when they were young and strong. But Caleb, Caleb kept his faith burning for 4 decades. He kept his vision sharp. He kept his strength up, because he knew the second mountain was coming. And when it arrived, he didn't ask for easy. He asked for impossible. That's what the 14th of August is about, chosen one. It's about your Caleb moment, your second mountain, your hill country. Because here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. You weren't kept alive this long just to collect Social Security and complain about your arthritis. You weren't preserved through heart attacks and strokes and surgeries just so you could waste away in front of a television, watching other people live the life you gave up on. You were kept alive because there's a second mountain waiting for you. And on the other side of that mountain is the reason you survived everything you've survived. Think about it. Why are you still here when so many of your friends have gone home? Why do you still wake up every morning when your body should have given out years ago? Why does your heart still beat when it's been broken so many times it should have stopped from exhaustion? Because your assignment isn't finished. Your legacy isn't complete. Your greatest chapter hasn't been written yet. The first mountain taught you endurance. The second mountain will teach you influence. The first mountain showed you what you could survive. The second mountain will show you what you can create. The first mountain was about your journey. The second mountain is about their destination. But here's the urgency you need to understand. This second mountain has an expiration date. You can't climb it when you're 95. You can't scale it from a hospital bed. You can't conquer it when your mind starts to fade or your spirit starts to quit. The window is now. The 14th of August. This moment, this breath, this heartbeat. And if you think I'm being dramatic, if you think I'm pushing too hard, let me ask you this. How many more years do you think you have? How many more chances do you think God is going to give you to stop playing it safe and start playing for keeps? The clock isn't just ticking, beloved. It's thundering. But here's the promise that will change everything if you say yes to the second mountain. If you stop living like your story is ending and start living like your legacy is beginning, God will do something supernatural. He'll give you Caleb's strength, Moses' vision, and supernatural time. On the other side of that second mountain is the answer to every prayer you thought went unanswered, every dream you thought died too soon, every purpose you thought you missed. But you have to climb it, and you have to start now. The question that will determine the rest of your life is this: will you die looking at your promised land, or will you die fighting for it? Chosen one, I need to tell you something that might make your hands tremble, something your pastor never preached about, something the prosperity gospel crowd swept under their golden carpets. The 14th of August isn't just your breakthrough day, it's your fire test day. Listen to me carefully. When Daniel's 3 friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, stood before that blazing furnace in Daniel chapter 3, they didn't know they'd walk out untouched. They didn't have a guarantee. They just had one declaration that shook the heavens. Our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us. But if not, we will not bow down. But if not, those 3 words separate the chosen from the comfortable. Those 3 words separate those who talk faith from those who walk through fire. Here's what nobody told you about your calling. It comes with a furnace. Every single person God has ever used mightily has been through the fire. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before he split the Red Sea. Joseph rotted in prison for years before he ruled Egypt. David hid in caves while carrying the anointing of a king. The fire isn't your punishment, beloved. The fire is your preparation. But here's where it gets intense. Some of you listening right now will feel the heat turn up dramatically after the 14th of August. The very moment you step into your divine assignment, hell will notice. The second you start walking in authority, opposition will rise. And I need you to understand this truth that will either terrify you or transform you. Fire never destroys what is pure. It only reveals it. Think about gold in a refiner's fire. The heat doesn't damage the gold, it exposes the impurities. The dross rises to the surface so it can be skimmed away. What remains is precious metal, purified, valuable, Unbreakable. You think you're being attacked? Number. You're being refined. You think you're under assault? Number. You're under appointment. The enemy wouldn't waste his ammunition on someone ordinary. He reserves his fiercest battles for those carrying the most dangerous anointing. Hold the line, hold the faith, hold your ground. But let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many times have you quit when the pressure increased? How many dreams did you abandon when the criticism got loud? How many callings did you walk away from when the cost became clear? The widow, in 1 Kings 17, was down to her last meal. Her son was dying. Famine was everywhere. Death was knocking. But when Elijah asked for her last bit of bread, she had a choice: hold back or hold nothing back. Give her final portion or keep it for herself. She chose fire. She chose faith. She chose to trust God even when logic screamed otherwise. And you know what happened? Her oil never ran dry. Her flour never ended. Her son lived. Her legacy echoed through eternity. But here's the part that will shake you if she had held back, if she had played it safe, if she had chosen security over surrender. She would have died with her fears anyway. Hold the line. Hold the faith. Hold your ground. Right now, some of you are thinking, I'm too old for this kind of intensity. I'm 70. I'm 80. I just want peace. But let me tell you about another 80-year-old. Moses stood before the most powerful man in the world, Pharaoh of Egypt, and declared, "Let my people go." Not suggested, not requested, declared, with the authority of someone who had been through 40 years of fire and came out speaking with the voice of the Almighty. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your weapon. Your years aren't your weakness, they're your credentials. You've survived what would have broken others. You've endured what would have destroyed lesser souls. The fire that's coming isn't meant to break you. It's meant to reveal what you're really made of. Hold the line. Hold the faith. Hold your ground. Here's what I need you to understand about the days following the 14th of August. Every test you face will be an opportunity to prove that what God planted in you is fireproof. Every opposition will be a chance to demonstrate that greater is He who is in you than he who is in the world. But you cannot run when the heat rises. You cannot retreat when the pressure builds. You cannot compromise when the fire gets hot. Because on the other side of that fire test is your greatest victory. On the other side of that furnace is your finest hour. On the other side of that heat is a testimony that will echo through generations. The question burning in my spirit right now is this: when your fire test comes, and it's coming, will you bow down to fear, or will you stand up in faith? Because, chosen one, what happens next will determine not just your destiny, but the destiny of everyone watching your response to the flames. But here's where it gets supernatural, chosen one. Here's where heaven stops whispering and starts orchestrating. You see, most people live their entire lives thinking coincidences are random. They dismiss the unexpected phone call. They brush off the stranger who speaks exactly what they needed to hear. They call it luck when two railroad tracks that have been running parallel for decades finally converge at the exact station they were destined to reach. But you're different. You've always sensed there was more happening behind the scenes, haven't you? Listen to me carefully. The 14th of August isn't just coming with blessings, it's coming with intersections. Divine intersections. Moments so precisely orchestrated that even the skeptics will have to pause and wonder if someone upstairs is pulling the strings. Let me tell you what's been happening in the spiritual realm while you've been sleeping. Angels have been rearranging appointments. The Holy Spirit has been whispering in ears across this nation. Divine connections that were severed years ago are being rewired. Phone numbers you thought were lost forever are being supernaturally retrieved. People you never expected to hear from again are about to reach out with words that will confirm the very prayers you whispered in secret. But here's the shocking truth that will rock you to your core. Those random moments aren't random at all. They're divine appointments. And if you've been experiencing them lately, if your phone has been ringing with unexpected voices, if strangers have been saying things that hit too close to home, if you've been having those spine-tingling moments where you think that can't be a coincidence, then you need to understand something urgent. You're already living in the overflow of the 14th of August. Think about Esther 4:14. Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this? Mordecai wasn't speaking about coincidence. He was speaking about divine intersection. The moment when every separate thread of your story weaves together into one magnificent tapestry. Your royal position. Not your comfortable position, not your convenient position, your royal position. The place where heaven has been maneuvering you through every closed door, every broken relationship, every financial struggle, every health scare. Every single twist in your journey has been a divine detour leading you to this intersection. But I need to ask you something that might sting a little. How many divine intersections have you missed because you were too busy looking for something bigger? How many times has God tried to get your attention through a simple phone call, but you were waiting for a billboard? How many strangers has He sent with confirmations, but you dismissed them because they weren't wearing angel wings? The enemy's greatest weapon against chosen ones isn't persecution, it's distraction. He doesn't need to stop God's plans. He just needs to make you miss them. But not this time. Not on the 14th of August. Because here's what I'm seeing in the Spirit. 3 types of divine intersections are about to collide in your life like trains meeting at Grand Central Station. First, the confirmation call. Someone from your past is going to reach out, not with small talk, not with surface conversation. They're going to say something that confirms what you've been praying about in private. When this happens, and it will happen, don't you dare brush it off. Write it down. You're documenting your prophecy in real time. Second, the stranger's word. You're going to be standing in line somewhere ordinary, the grocery store, the pharmacy, the bank, and someone you've never met is going to speak a word that hits your spirit like lightning. It might be a casual comment. It might be something they're saying to someone else. But when you hear it, your soul will recognize it. That's heaven, using human lips to deliver divine mail addressed specifically to you. Third, the open door. Something you've been trying to access for months, maybe years, is going to suddenly become available. A position, an opportunity, a relationship, a solution. And when it opens, it won't open slowly. It will swing wide like someone on the other side has been waiting for you to arrive. Now listen carefully. When these intersections begin happening, and they're already starting for some of you, don't you dare question them. Don't analyze them to death. Don't wait for more confirmation of your confirmation. Move when heaven moves. Respond when the Spirit speaks. Act when the door opens. Because here's the mystery most believers never understand. Divine timing doesn't wait for your comfort level. It waits for your obedience level. The railroad tracks of your past and your future are about to meet at the station called the 14th of August. The question that will determine everything isn't whether you'll arrive, it's whether you'll recognize the station when you see it. Are you ready to stop missing divine intersections and start living in them? You've felt the first wave, haven't you? That gentle stirring 3 days ago when something in your spirit whispered, "Pay attention." You've seen the second wave building in the distance, that growing sense that the 14th of August isn't just another Thursday. But chosen one, what's coming now will lift you higher than you've ever been lifted before. The third wave is here. Can you feel it? That rumbling beneath the surface of your everyday life. That's not your imagination running wild. That's the sound of heaven's cavalry approaching. And this third wave, this final surge of divine intervention, it's not coming to knock you down. It's coming to lift you up. But let me tell you something that might shock you to your core. This third wave isn't just about you getting your breakthrough. It's about you becoming someone else's miracle. Listen to me carefully. In Exodus chapter 14, the Israelites stood trapped between Pharaoh's army and the Red Sea. 2 million people with nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. They'd felt the first wave of God's power in Egypt. The plagues, the signs, the wonders. They'd seen the second wave, the death angel passing over their homes. But it was the third wave that changed everything. the third wave that split the sea, the third wave that turned their impossible situation into their greatest testimony. Moses lifted that staff, and what happened next defied every law of physics, every rule of nature, every limitation that had ever been placed on human possibility. The water didn't just part, beloved. It stood up like walls of crystal, 30 feet high on both sides, creating a highway through the impossible. That's your third wave coming. And here's what's going to shock you about this third wave: it's healing. Deep, cellular, generational healing that reaches into places you thought were dead forever. For some of you watching right now, it will touch your relationships. That marriage you've been praying over for 37 years, that child who hasn't spoken to you in a decade, that friendship that died in bitterness and pride. The third wave is about to wash over those broken places and make them whole again. For others, it will sweep through your finances like a holy tsunami. That debt that's been crushing your chest for 2 decades, that retirement fund that disappeared in 2008, that medical bill that makes you choose between groceries and medication. The third wave doesn't just bring provision, it brings abundance that makes up for every year the locusts have eaten. But for some of you, and I can feel this in my spirit right now, the third wave is coming for that part of your heart you thought was gone forever. That place where joy used to live before life beat it out of you. That chamber where dreams used to dance before disappointment murdered them one by one. That sacred space where you used to believe God was good before the betrayals convinced you otherwise. The third wave is resurrection power. And dead things don't stay dead when resurrection shows up. But here's what you need to understand about waves they build. They don't just appear. They start small, they grow, they gather momentum, and then they crash with the force of 1,000 prayers finally being answered. Some of you have been feeling the build-up for weeks now. The sleepless nights, the unexplained emotions, the dreams that feel more real than your waking hours. That's not spiritual warfare, beloved. That's spiritual preparation. Your soul has been getting ready for what it's about to receive. Ephesians 3:20 declares that God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think. But do you know what that word exceedingly means in the original Greek? It means immeasurably more, infinitely beyond, so far past your highest expectation that your mind can't even calculate the distance. That's the mathematics of the third wave. It's coming. Can you hear it in the distance? It's coming. Like thunder rolling across the heavens, it's coming. Like the sound of 1,000,000 prayers being answered at once. And when it hits, when this third wave crashes over your life on the 14th of August, you won't just be blessed, you won't just be healed, you won't just be restored. You'll be transformed into something this world has never seen before. A living testimony that God is still in the miracle business. Walking proof that it's never too late for a divine reversal. Breathing evidence that what the enemy meant for evil, God can still turn for good. The first wave awakened you. The second wave aligned you. But this third wave is going to unleash you into a destiny so magnificent that your past pain will pale in comparison to your future glory. But here's the question that will determine whether you ride this wave or get crushed by it. Are you ready to let go of everything that's been holding you underwater? Chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to carry these truths with you like precious stones in your pocket. Remember this. Thursday, the 14th of August isn't just another date on your calendar, it's your divine appointment with destiny. The stirring you felt, the sleepless nights, the unexplainable knowing that something is shifting that's not your imagination. That's heaven's notification system preparing you for breakthrough. Remember that every tear you've cried, every battle you've fought, every night you've felt forgotten has been pointing like a divine arrow to this moment. Your pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Your delays weren't denials, they were divine timing. Your struggles weren't random, they were strategic positioning for what God is about to release through you. And remember this above all else. The third wave isn't just coming to bless you, it's coming to transform you into someone else's miracle. You're not just getting your breakthrough, you're becoming the breakthrough others have been praying for. But hear me clearly, beloved, you are not walking this path alone. Even when the road feels uncertain, even when the breakthrough seems delayed, even when doubt whispers lies in your ear, the Creator of the universe is orchestrating every detail of your life behind the scenes. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, and preparing blessings that will leave you speechless. And right here, in this community of believers, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your journey, who believe in your calling, and who are ready to stand with you in prayer. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're a family united by faith, connected by hope, and bound together by the love of Christ. So let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know the 14th of August is marked in heaven's calendar, now that you understand the third wave is building, now that you've felt the Holy Spirit confirming these words in your heart, what will you do with this revelation? How will you prepare your soul for what's coming? Before you leave this sacred space, I want to pray over you. Right now, wherever you are, I want you to close your eyes and let these words wash over your spirit like healing oil. Heavenly Father, I place my hand on the shoulder of every person who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see their hearts, you know their struggles, you've counted every tear they've shed in secret. You see the grandmother in Chicago who's been praying for her grandson for 23 years. You see the grandfather in Texas whose dreams feel too big for his 8 one-year-old bones. You see every chosen one who's ever whispered, God, do you still remember me? Father, I pray that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary souls. Where they feel depleted, restore them. Where they feel forgotten, remind them of their worth. Where they feel overwhelmed, be their strength. Let the 14th of August be the day everything changes, not just their circumstances, but their understanding of how deeply you love them. God, open doors that no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't even thought to ask for. Send divine connections that will accelerate their purpose. Give them dreams and visions that will clarify their next steps. Surround them with people who see their value, who honor their calling, who will walk alongside them without trying to dim their light. Most of all, Father, let them feel your presence right now. Let them know in their bones that you are proud of how they've carried what you've given them. Let them feel your smile, your approval, your deep, unshakable love for who they are and who they're becoming. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer over their lives. Let your will be done. Let your kingdom come. Let your third wave crash over them with healing, restoration, and divine acceleration. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share how this message has touched your heart. What's God speaking to you about the 14th of August? What are you believing Him for in this season? Don't hold back. Your testimony might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. If you feel led, share this message with someone who needs to remember they're not forgotten. There's a chosen one in your life right now who's been feeling that same stirring, that same divine restlessness. They need to know they're not alone. They need to know their moment is coming too. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for letting these words penetrate the sacred chambers of your soul. Your faithfulness to watch until the very end tells me everything I need to know about your character and your calling. If this is your first time here, welcome to the family. Hit that subscribe button and join thousands of believers who gather here regularly to be encouraged, equipped, and empowered for kingdom living. We're building something beautiful together, a community where faith grows, hope is restored, and destinies are fulfilled. Until we meet again, walk in the authority of who you are. You are chosen, you are loved. And the 14th of August is coming. May His peace guard your heart, and may His third wave lift you higher than you've ever been lifted before. God bless you, chosen one. Your finest hour is just ahead.